We are just coming off a historic MLS season that saw the best single season by an MLS club, the introduction of video review, and an influx of talent that we have never seen before. And now we are ready to do it all over again in 2018. Welcome to the MLS Schedule Reveal Show, the first of its kind. We are giving you an exclusive first inside look at the 2018 MLS schedule ahead of its 2 p.m. Eastern release today. I'm your host, Susannah Collins, and I'm so happy to be joined by these two gentlemen who also braved the elements to be here today. It's a little cold.
We got here, though.
We have longtime MLS contributor, host of Extra Time Radio, new dad extraordinaire, Andrew Wiebe.
It's been a decade, and the new dad side, if you can see the bags under my eyes, please cut me a break. It's going to be such an exciting season.
You look great.
I cannot wait.
You look great, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And also joining us, we have former FC Dallas defender, MLS contributor, and author of When the Dream Became Reality. He's a published author, you guys. Mr. Bobby Warshaw, great to have you here as well.
It's good to be here.
Great. So, Bobby, while we're here, as we saw, very exciting season last year, but what are we looking forward to this year in 2018?
2017 was a fun year to be an MLS fan. Obviously, World Cup qualifying sucked. Can't beat around the bush on that. But the product we put out week in and week out in our country, the standard is higher than it's ever been. Right? The quality of players, the style of the teams, the atmosphere in the stadium, the bar has been raised, right? The trajectory is going up, and it feels like 2018 will only be better.
2017 was the best season in league history.
The best.
And I'm not just blowing hot smoke like air there. And by the way, Bobby, our country, the U.S., didn't do the best ever season in MLS history. That was Toronto FC up in Canada. So we got to share the billing with the red side, with Vancouver, with Montreal. But this year is going to be even better. Every single week last year, I wasn't lacking for storylines. I wasn't lacking for amazing jaw-dropping plays. I wasn't lacking for games that made me sit on the edge of my seat. And now I look at this year and I say, wow, the bar is going to be raised because clubs are competing against clubs more and more. We've seen the trade market open up. We've seen Atlanta United come in and say, this was good enough. Toronto FC say, that was good enough. Well, that was the past. The future, you've got to do this. Every year, you're going to get left behind.
Organizations are now pushing each other and saying, if you don't match us, if you don't perform and put in the resources that we are, you can't keep up.
Again, the bar has been raised, but we are going to get to that and so much more in the next 30 minutes. We are going to talk about notable matchups and dates, rivalries and derbies, of course, and the World Cup break. But right now, I am so happy to bring in a guy who's been with the league since 1997. He has worked with clubs and TV partners in multiple capacities, VP of Club Services and Scheduling, Mr. Brad Purcell. Thank you so much for being here
thanks for
today.
having me.
I know it's been a busy few weeks for you, but my first question, we have an odd number of teams in the league this year with the addition of LAFC, makes it 23. How does that affect the scheduling?
Well, it impacts it in a few ways, but first I think it's very exciting to have LAFC join the league, an expansion team, new ownership group, new building, a new dynamic in the LA market, which I think will be great for both clubs. It does present some challenges with an odd number of teams. We have to give one team a bye each weekend, so there's some strategy there when we place the byes throughout the year. And there's an imbalance in the number of teams in each conference, so we've got to manage that in the competition format with a 34-team game schedule.
You talk about imbalance. It's your job to balance all these competing interests between the 23 teams, TV, fans, stadiums. I mean, start filling in the blanks here, Brad, because who are you managing as you put out this huge, huge undertaking?
Well, it is an ongoing process, as you said, and there are many groups that are involved from different federations, from our clubs, ownership groups. And it's a balancing act between the competition side, the commercial side, attendance, TV. So there are many masters to please, if you will, but it is a strong collaboration with all these different groups, an ongoing process to put together the best possible schedule that we can.
So in about 20 minutes, we will all know that schedule. Of course, we're going to bring you more coming up, but you've got to be sitting in that chair exhaling, right? I mean, this is a good day for you.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong schedule. It'll be a moment of relief after this, but we'll be right back at it, starting to look for the future.
One of the factors that goes into it, as you said, is the clubs. How much input do the clubs and organizations get in the process?
Sure. So setting up the process, our ownership group is very involved in the competition format, approving our footprint, who's playing who each year. And then once we get into more of the nitty-gritty of the schedule, clubs, obviously they tell us all the blackout dates. We have a number of clubs who share the venue still with another tenant, so we've got some blackout dates that we have to work around annually. A number of clubs have dates that they want to play home games on, preferred dates where they've built traditions around, so we make sure that we hit those home dates for those clubs as well. So that's to the extent where they get involved in the scheduling process. If we had 23 coaches and team presidents involved in the process throughout, it would be a never-ending process.
And you can't keep everyone perfectly happy. This past year, Michael Bradley voices concern. Bruce Arena's done it in the past. Is that something you hear, or perhaps more importantly, is that something you pay any attention to?
Definitely hear it. Definitely pay attention to it. It's not just in our sport. We see that in other sports as well. But it's constructive feedback at times. We want to make sure that we're improving the scheduling process each year. But there is no perfect schedule for any team. Every team each year is going to have a difficult spell in their schedule, whether it's a travel issue, competition related with other non-MLS competitions. There's a lot to fit in that 34 game per team in our footprint. So there are challenges for each team, for sure.
Didn't seem to slow down Michael Bradley and Toronto FC last year, did it? By the way, this year, Bim Bear crunched the numbers. They will travel the least. One place Michael won't travel is Russia, which, as Bobby said, it still kills us all.
Sure.
But you have a unique challenge every 4 years, certainly, but it starts to feel like every single summer there's a break to be made up there. World Cup this year, how'd you deal with it?
Well, we've kind of built an annual tradition with a midsummer break, whether it's 2 weeks or 10 days. This year, we're going to have a 9-day break for the World Cup. We take a break for the Gold Cup every other year. We've taken breaks for the World Cup in the past. A couple years ago, we had Copa Centenario, where we took a break as well. But it allows our fans an opportunity to watch these major competitions, so we honor the competition in that way. It gives our teams a little bit of a break, gives our rosters a little bit of a relief period. And around the fringes of the competition and during our break, we try to lighten the load on midweek games so we don't overtax our teams with players that might be missing.
U.S. and Canada, no chance at the World Cup, but they do have one at the CONCACAF Champions League. I have CCL fever. I know we love the tournament around here. I look at the schedule, I start flipping through, and I see that those 5 teams that are competing from round of 16 forward have little breaks. That makes me really, really happy. How did you strategize around this?
Yeah, we're excited. That is right around the corner, and there is some strategy behind there. We look at those teams who are in CONCACAF Champions League, and we strategically give them buys early in the season to give them the best opportunity to perform well in that competition. It's a league objective, it's a club objective to try to win some of those crowns going forward. And we've proven in past years, if a team is advancing in the competition, we'll look to move another regular season game if it helps.
Well, Brad, as we look towards the end of this season, obviously all the excitement around Decision Day presented by AT&T, a big part of that. What does that look like in 2018?
I think it's very exciting to conclude our season again with Decision Day. All games will be on at the same time, 4:30. All of the matchups except for one are within the conference. With an odd number of teams, obviously there has to be one matchup out. There will be one team with a bye. But not only is it a great way for our teams to conclude the season fighting for playoff positions, are you in, are you out, what's your seed going to be, but it sets up the playoffs and launches us right into that MLS Cup run.
Sure does. Look forward to that already. Brad, thank you so much for being
Thanks for
here.
having me.
I hope you get some rest.
Yeah, go get the parka on. That trip back home is going to be cold, man.
Straight to bed. Thanks.
Well, just a reminder, guys, the official schedule will be released at 2 p.m. Eastern, and you can check that out at MLSsoccer.com. You can also download the app, go to the Apple or Android store, and also, guys, you can download the schedule directly to your calendar on your phone at MLSsoccer.com/schedule. Just look for that little sync to calendar feature, and then you can sync it right to your phone. You're going to have the entire schedule at your fingertips. It's great stuff. You won't miss a thing. But right now, let's get to it. Let's take a look at the start of the season. I've got my guy, Andrew Wiebe, standing at the board. Do your thing.
Yeah, slowly but surely, we will fill in the gaps for you here. Of course, you already knew the home openers. Those came out in December. But as we look at week 1 here, we'll see what stands out. And number 1 for me, Toronto FC, Columbus Crew SC, back to BMO Field for the Reds. Of course, the last time they were there, they lifted a trophy. This ought to be a celebration. Atlanta, starting their season in Houston. That's Darlington Nagbe's first opportunity to pull in the 5 stripes in an MLS game. And then we're looking at Sasha Kljestan, Orlando City, DC United. Some first-time head coaches in the league. Brad Friedel, New England, going to Philadelphia. San Jose and Michael Starr hosting Minnesota United. As you continue on later into the week here in week 1, you've also got some really, really juicy matchups. I look at Giovanni Savarese going on the road to LA Galaxy to take on Siggy Schmidt. That's a really, really good one. You've also got Remy Gard in his first game against Vancouver Whitecaps. LAFC, Seattle. It just goes on and on, guys. But I'm trying to get something from you here, Bobby, because I have a feeling that you look at this list and are just it's something to dig into.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 options, Andrew, depending on your taste. Right, if you want the best soccer, the best players in the field and the best team style, let's look at Toronto Columbus. If you prefer a little tactical nuance, I'm personally interested in seeing what Ziggy Schmidt does with LA Galaxy, and obviously what Savarese does with Portland, so that'd be Galaxy Timbers. Or, if Young Guns are your thing, FC Dallas, Real Salt Lake. Both have very good academies. Both have made a load of homegrown signings. They have the Young Guns to play. It's the opening week, no excuses. Are they going to do it? Are they going to put youth on the field?
So Bobby's ordering the whole menu. Susannah, what are you going? There's plenty to dig into here.
Plenty. He didn't talk about Orlando, who I think have had one of the more interesting off seasons this year. They kind of cleaned house. It's a new look team for them. Obviously, the addition of Sasha Kleshin to that midfield is going to be pretty interesting to see how that works out. Dom Dwyer, they just extended his contract. Very curious to see if this is what's going to be what puts them over the hump and finally gets them into the postseason.
They need to be there. The wall is demanding it. I'm looking at LAFC going to Seattle to Century League Field. What a way to start your MLS existence. Let's keep it rolling, though. On to week 2 right now, and you'll see the Red Bulls and Colorado Rapids come back into the schedule as they come off those CCL buys in week 1. A juicy matchup here. Red Bulls hosting the Portland Timbers. I mentioned Savarese. He is a Metro Stars legend. He is going back to New Jersey in that one. You can also look as we continue on through the schedule here. Atlanta United, their first home game, maybe 70,000, we'll have to see, against DC United. They're bugaboos. That's week 2. On to week 3 here, and you're looking at just about every team having their home opener in the books. Just 2 that don't. You've got the Portland Timbers and LAFC, of course, opening up new stadiums. DC United is going to be up here at the top against the Houston Dynamo. We're not sure yet where that game will be, but that will be their home opener. You've got Montreal Impact, Toronto FC. It's a tradition. Stade Olympique. It is too cold in Montreal to play that one outside. The 401 Derby. Make sure you pay attention there. And then, orange ball alert, guys. Minnesota United, Chicago Fire, TFC Bank Stadium. It looks like outdoors in New York City right now.
That's hitting close to home. That's hitting way too close to home.
Minnesota fans aren't worried about this, though. They want that orange ball to come out.
Oh, my gosh. I do. You know what? I have to say, I do love a good snow game. It's fun to watch.
For players, I mean, is that fun? Slipping and sliding?
Until you get a shot go right off your leg as you try and block it.
Oh.
Stings a little?
Just a little bit, guys.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Well, guys, another notable game for me. Week 3, Mike Petke, an RSL, taking on his former club, the Red Bulls. That's a juicy little nugget for me.
Look, I say it all the time, make MLS more petty, and the Red Bulls are helping us in that department because now you've got Mike Petke. Why'd you fire Mike Petke, if you remember that refrain from a few years back? He's got his job. He's got an up-and-coming team. Giovanni Savarese, a legend who was on the green side of New York, gets his shots as well this year. But then, Dax McCarty, we've talked about that one enough. But another captain, Sasha Kleshin, being traded. I like the fact that it's not just traditional rivalries right now. With the trade market opening up, with more and more at stake, whether it be tunnel fights or something else happening, there's some drama, and it makes week to week more fun in MLS.
Our desk, the 3 of us personally would like to thank Jesse Marsh.
Thank you. And Dennis Hamlet. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I want to add one more.
Okay.
I want to use the word that, and what was it, bugaboo?
Bugaboo. Yeah. He did. He said bugaboo.
Yeah. I love you throwing that out there. Atlanta United, DC United. For DC United is apparently Atlanta's bugaboo.
Yep.
Beat them 3 times last year. I want to watch this game, A, to see if Atlanta United can finally figure that out, or what Tata Martino is going to do from the sideline and the potential memes that could bring us.
You want to see the head explosion.
By the way, head explosion memes? Bobby, memes?
That's not a thing?
Memes? I don't know, man. Good try.
I got bugaboo in there.
This raises a question, though. If Atlanta had won one of those games against DC, just one, they would have secured a bye in the playoffs. So I know this is a debate that you guys have had. Does every game matter? I want to hear from you two.
Players first, Bobby. Players first. Take it away.
I know fans want 3 points every time you step on the field. They want to see their team move up the standings, but for players early in the season, it's not as much about points or results as it is process and playing well. Mm-hmm. The players won't walk in the locker room after a game and be angry they didn't win. They'll be more concerned with how they played and will it help them later in the season with their performances.
I would hope that they were angry if they went in the locker room and they didn't win. I got to be honest with you. I look at Toronto FC, I look at what Michael Bradley said, and I know they're a unique club because they've really built incredibly well from DPs all the way down to the bottom of the roster. They had a historic season. What was their rallying cry this year? What led to this incredible campaign, this treble, this thing that may never be matched in MLS? Sure, teams are shooting for it, Well, they took every single game seriously. No game on that schedule was just, oh, no worries, we aren't concerned with these points. And I would point to Atlanta in the playoffs. I would point to teams that were out of it by July, August. I would point to the record number of head coaches that got fired and say, every single game matters. It may not feel like it every single time. The players might say, that's okay, but it may come back to bite them late in the season.
Well, speaking of games that matter, let's talk about CCL. And Brad Purcell talked about it, how they sort of accommodated the schedule for the teams that will be participating. Are you guys fans of this?
Oh, huge fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan. Give MLS an opportunity. Give these teams an opportunity, especially because of the schedule differences. Liga MX, in the middle of their campaigns, they're rolling, they're in rhythm. MLS teams, at the very beginning of the season. They're basically 1 month after preseason starts jumping into this. So give them every opportunity. Give them the breaks. Do it as they move on, if they move on. Let's see somebody make history.
Of the 5 options, you're thinking Toronto as the best shot?
If you didn't say Toronto, I would have to question your judgment, Bobby.
I
It is definitely the Reds, man.
last year.
It's definitely the Reds.
Second best, Dallas?
That's your heart speaking.
Yes.
I'll let it go.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. You guys, some of the more notable dates on this schedule are around stadium openings. And, of course, the biggest one, a Bank of California stadium that is going to be LAFC's new home. That will open up April 29th against, they'll be playing Seattle. Guys, I was there last month, and this was, they're not done with this place yet, but it is still absolutely unbelievable.
You saw the skeleton.
Yes.
This is going to be the real thing. And just look at this stadium in the heart of downtown LA. You see the view there through the little gap. I love that it's turnabout is fair play. They open the season in Seattle. They get to experience that environment. Then they got to bring the Sounders back to LA and show them what's up in their first ever game at home.
All right, so out in Portland, now Providence Park, obviously not a new stadium, but they have added an addition to accommodate 5,000 more fans. So a place that was already raucous, that Timbers Army going nuts, it's going to be even crazier, you guys. And that is on April 14th, a game against Chicago.
This just makes me happy to see, Susannah. This is what you want to see from your league. The fans stepped up. The people of Portland, the city of Portland have been amazing. And here there is their owner saying, you've supported us. We have an extended season ticket line, and he rewards them 5,000 more seats. Good for everyone involved.
You like that roof there?
That overhang is awesome. It keeps the sound, and it'll be even louder. All players around the league are excited for this new overhang because it makes the environment even better.
I got to make a trip out there this year.
For sure.
That's on my list. Also on my list, Audi Field, you guys. DC United finally getting their new stadium. RIP RFK. But this is set to open July 14th against Vancouver. What's this going to be like, Wiebe?
I mean, I hope it's something like RFK when it comes to the soul of the place. And you know what?
Bouncing?
Yeah, maybe bring some bouncing. A couple raccoons over. I stood on RFK Stadium with Marco Echeverry and Jaime Moreno, and I felt that soul before they closed it last year. I hope they find a way to honor those guys, and I hope they honor it with the same kind of results that those guys brought. They've been waiting for this for a long time in the nation's capital. They're getting it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous facility. DC United have to wait a while to get in there, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
We talk traditions. It would be cool if they have a tradition where they pet the raccoon, the statue of the raccoon.
Oh, the raccoon.
Some teams hit the board. Can we get DC United to pet a raccoon?
It's a little dangerous, don't you think?
Well,
Make sure you have your rabies shots.
Well, they might need to, you guys. Let's talk a little bit about streaking. And no, not that kind of streaking. Not that kind of streaking. This is a family show. But I'm talking about DC, you guys. 12 of their first 14 matches on the road.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, 12 of their final 15 games between August and October are going to be at home. But what does this mean for this team?
I mean, it means they got to figure out how to grind out results early because this is going to be a weird juxtaposition tactically and identity-wise for Ben Olsen. I think for most people, they're going to look at this and say, it means DC United are not going to make the playoffs. And that's the easy conclusion to come to. And if I was a betting man, it's probably what I would put mine on. But who knows, man? If you get all those games at home at the end, if you build momentum, if you find a way to scratch together some points early, maybe, just maybe.
I wouldn't take DC United in the playoffs, but I also won't say they won't make it either, because if any team can do this, it's a Ben Olsen group. When you go on the road like this, guys, it's as much mental as anything else. It's finding a way to get up for the task every single day, and those are the things that Ben Olsen talks about day in and day out. He talks about competing every day. He talks about grinding out results. He talks about playing as a unit and fighting together, and those are the things that are important on a road stretch like this. So if anyone in the league can do it, it's a Ben Olsen group.
Recovery, team ops, travel, getting those schedules schedules right, turning it in. Yeah, young team too, so their legs should be able to do it. But getting this a routine around traveling is going to be really important for them.
I want DC to do well.
I know.
They deserve it, man. After what they
got an exciting team too.
Year. All right, well, let's stay on this this topic of streaking, shall we? Both Minnesota and Atlanta. They've got some road trips, some heavy road trips on the schedule from late August through September for Atlanta, and the Minnesota 5-game road trip in August, September as well. And then we've got Portland with a 4-game home streak from July 21st to August 11th. So what do you guys make of this?
For Portland, they've got the new coach. It's also near the summer signing window. Maybe they have new signings. But travel days equal training days, especially in the middle of the season when training days are at a premium. Guys are starting to get tired. So what having a homestand means is you're not traveling as much and you get more days to train, more days for Gio Savarese to get his style implemented and to maybe get some new signings into that team.
Yeah, home dates equal travel days. Just you're spot on though. Especially in this time period, around the transfer window, having that time to get on the training field and say, oh, let's retool. Let's figure out what we are going in to this next second half of the season where, look, we know that that's the most important time. I look at Atlanta, I think, hey, look, they're going to be signing players. They might be selling players. They could have changes. Minnesota, I hope that they're doing that in the window. That could be the difference for the Loons between fading down the stretch and maybe making history for a franchise that wants to get in the playoffs.
All right, we're going to put the streaking topic to bed. Thankfully, we are moving on to derbies, another great topic, depending on how you say it. Some people say derbies. I say derby. We've had this debate, you guys.
You do you.
I say derby, but we have a brand new one this season. I'm talking about the one that's going to be happening in Southern California, in Los Angeles. That is between the Galaxy and LAFC, March 31st. Mark your calendars for that one. That is going to be at StubHub Center, a game that's going to be on 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. What do you guys think of this?
You know what?
Rivalry.
I love it. I love it. I was here for all the ones in New York, and they were all great. But this is sort of, as we were talking about in the beginning, a shot across the bow of the LA Galaxy. In years past, they were the kings. They were the gorilla. They were the giant. It would have been LAFC coming into this and having to knock the big dog off their perch. Well, the big dog's been knocked off the perch. They're down at the bottom of the table, had one of the worst seasons in the league last year, one of the worst seasons in their history. Now Siggy Smith has to rebuild it. So you look at the black and gold side, they're buzzing, man. Bob Bradley's in. The fan base is packing 4,000 people into random events in LA. They're downtown. They got a new stadium. Momentum's on their side. Galaxy, Bobby, need to fire back.
We can all agree that MLS is a better league when the Galaxy are big and present. They're a global brand, but it kind of feels like they got a little complacent last year. As we talked about, LAFC is raising the bar on them. Galaxy can no longer be complacent, or they'll be forgotten even within their own market. So I would say this is good for Galaxy. It's good for us, but it's also good for Galaxy.
And I would also disagree, because you said everybody wants to see the Galaxy be good. There's a lot of fans out there saying, I know the league.
You know who doesn't? People on the East Coast. Because true. Guess what? We have another derby that is New York Red or Blue. We've got on May 5th at Red Bull Arena, NYCFC coming into town. What do you guys make of this?
I just love the subway rides in, the path rides in, the fan bases talking trash to each other in person at their stadiums. I just think that this intercity rivalry has been so good for both clubs. It's a great thing.
All right, well, let's move on to Rivalry Week. And guys, this is a little different this year. We are accustomed to having 2 Rivalry Weeks. Well, this year, no. Just one. 8 games from Wednesday to Sunday. One of the games we saw, that August 22nd NYCFC matchup between the Red Bulls. But this is a whole lot of soccer in a short period of time. It's really exciting. What do you guys make of this new format?
I love it. I love that we just have a long stretch of compelling games every single night of the week. So Tuesday night, get out there, get your beer, get your snacks, get your food, or stock up on Seamless, because you're going to be at home on the couch, or at least I will. This is so exciting, and I love that it's distilled into one.
I like how you threw distilled in there.
Look at these words.
And like Heineken, it's a Heineken rivalry.
New year, new Andrew, man.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah. I personally like the date and the part of the year it's in. As I said early on, this is when the players in the locker room, this is when the coaches will really start to sweat about points. Getting close to the playoffs, so now you're not just playing your biggest rival for bragging rights, but you also need those points.
Oh, it's Red Bulls, it's DC, it's Portland, it's Seattle. All these teams who have reason to expect that they could be in the running at that time.
Or need to be.
Yeah,
or the pressure is on, the weight is on. So if they're not, it's even more significance.
All right, let's move on to some of the other notable rivalries. Of course, we've got Cascadia. We've got Portland taking on Seattle. That's May 13th. And then Seattle going to Portland on June 30th. And you guys also noted that Vancouver is only playing their Cascadia rivals twice this year. So it's a little different.
You know, it's a quirk in the schedule. It's just the way it is, but it does kind of throw off that Cascadia Cup, and it's no longer kind of balanced across. We'll see how that goes. Vancouver probably not happy about that.
Numbers game, man. Gets you sometimes.
Numbers game. All right, so what about Orlando and Atlanta? This is kind of a new budding rivalry.
I was down there for the game when they had 70K, and John Dwyer was going crazy, and Joseph Martinez was going crazy. This is a great new game that's just starting to build steam. Look, people get upset. They say, don't call things rivalries until they become one. Atlanta United is buying billboards in Orlando talking trash. It's well on its way. So I won't call it a rivalry just yet.
It's a thing.
But know that it's about to become a thing.
It's a thing. I would definitely say it's a thing. All right. And, of course, the Texas Derby, Houston-Dallas. Bobby, I know you're well-versed in this particular matchup. Your thoughts on this?
Dallas has a chip on their shoulder. Before the last couple of years, Dallas was the top dog in this one. Houston makes it to the semifinals. Dallas is out of the playoffs. Not only are they the old rivalry, but they each have their reason to have a little flair in this game.
All right, and of course, let's move on to Real Salt Lake against Colorado Rapids. Wiebe, I mean, there's one team that's sort of on the rise and one that's kind of going the other direction.
Both under the playoff line last year, so there's that. But God bless Mike Pecky. God bless the young players that RSL have. I love what they're doing this year. Still active in that market. Just signed a forward, going after a box-to-box midfielder. Colorado Rapids had the biggest drop in points from 16 to 17. Yeah. What will Anthony Hudson, what will Porrick Smith do this year to make sure that that's reversed and they get back in the playoff running? This one's going to be heated.
And, of course, let's take it north of the border, Toronto and Montreal. Bobby, your thoughts on this rivalry up north?
In terms of these old school rivalries, this is the one I'm most stoked about this year. Toronto, for obvious reasons, but Montreal just feels like they're cooking something up there in Canada. Remy Gard's really got something going, or at least he feels like he's got the makings of it.
And on June 30th, we have LA and San Jose. This is a rivalry that these games are always
never
good.
disappoints.
Always
Stock up on the fireworks. Stock up on the fireworks because they're probably popping them off after the game, and they're probably going to happen in like the 92nd minute. Chase Salinas is still spinning his jersey around his head. I love this rivalry. I do not want LAFC and LA Galaxy to take away from it. I really hope it doesn't happen.
And, of course, a matchup that has become a rivalry, at least according to the last two MLS Cup finals. We're talking about Seattle and Toronto, and that is on May 9th. We can watch these two face off again. Bobby, I want to direct this one to you because I know you have some thoughts on this matchup.
MLS Cup 2016 was a beatdown. Toronto gave Seattle a kicking like we haven't seen in a long time. So it's not just about the MLS Cup or the rematch. That's the kind of thing as a player you don't forget. You don't forget when a team does that to you. And that's the kind of thing that makes Seattle do an extra sprint in preseason or keeps them up at night sometimes. So it'll add a little extra sauce for them.
Yeah, and look, they also remember Toronto do 2016. We were freezing, didn't get it done. They lost that game. So a lot of emotion tied up in these two teams.
All right, guys, I want to get your thoughts on one thing in particular that you're looking forward to most this season. Bobby, we'll start with you.
I'm interested to see whether we start to see tiers in MLS, whether Toronto and Atlanta and a couple of these teams separate themselves as the top teams and how the other organizations respond. How do they pick their playing style? How do the coaches talk about matches and matchups? So that's what I'm interested in seeing is what happens between the disparity in some of the teams.
I'm going to stick with games, although TAM players versus academy minutes is what I'm looking at. I look at decision day, Sasha Kleshing going to New York, two teams that I think might be right around that playoff line. That could be rife with emotion after this trade. And then Bradley on Bradley. LAFC, Toronto, the best team in league history against the new expansion team. Bob Bradley returning to the league. Those are two great matchups this year.
Well, guys, we don't have to wait too much longer to find out how it's all going to shake up with less than 2 months until the start of the season, you guys. This is very exciting. And, of course, you guys, plenty of MLS action coming your way. We've got the Combine coming up. We're going to be live streaming those games starting next week. We also have the Super Draft coming up on January 18th. You're going to be hosting the live show. I'm going to be in Philly for that one, getting some coach interviews.
We're going to be at the Combine with tons of coverage. MLSsoccer.com is the spot. And, of course, if you're building up to the season, Extra Time Radio driven by Continental. Dennis Hamlet is on with us today. Bobby's going to be with us. Matt Doyle's going to be with us.
We'll have some questions.
We've got a whole cast of characters. You guys, remember to download that app download the calendar, and guys, go to MLSsoccer.com. In like a few seconds, this official schedule is going to be released, but we just broke it all down for you here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. On behalf of Andrew Wiebe and Bobby Warshaw, I'm Susannah Collins. We will see you soon. Thanks for watching.